offered is by imagining a lot of things and keeping herself busy. When I mean surviving with sanity, I remember that Alfred had mentioned being sane in this society is almost like a gift, or did she say another word? I think it was.
Page 109 at the bottom.
Oh, she said it in. Okay, I thought it was a different chapter. Okay, well, yeah, that a lot of them value sanity, and in order to be sane, I think she really does keep herself busy and allows her mind to just go wherever direction it ends up going to, I guess.
For my map, I went for number 2. I picked a quote that relates to it, kind of. So the quote that I picked was on page 135. And it said maybe one of this is about control. Maybe it isn't really about who can.
Give us a second to get to 135.
Maybe none of this is about control. Maybe it isn't really who can own home, who can do what to whom and get away with it. Even as far as that, maybe it isn't about who can sit and who has to kneel or stand or lie down, legs spread apart. Maybe it's about who can do what to whom and be forgiven for it. Never tell me it amounts to the same thing. So I said, Alfred is questioning the roles that each person plays in the Republic of Gilead and how forgiveness contributes to wealth. And she also questioned the system of a patriarchal society, what matters and what doesn't. It seems as she's trying to find a way to understand the system and find an escape through it. Alfred and generally reveals a pertinent idea of what a patriarchal society actually looks like and how it is managed. So the way she's saying, I'm trying to say that she's trying to see, we think as a patriarchal society, we see it as men being in control, but here she's questioning whether it doesn't really matter who's in control, doesn't matter the gender, or is it just being able to do things, but being able to like get away with it at the same time. So she's having that change of mindset to survive through this society.
And you said that was on 135?
Yeah.
What paragraph?
Oh, the second paragraph. The top.
Does this connect to the part about forgiveness?
Not really, but it type does. But she does say that maybe it's about who can do what to whom and be forgiven for it. She'll say, so before she said, she was told that, she said that forgiveness too is a power. So it's like, I was trying to think of a way to like connect to it. So I was thinking like maybe forgiveness is the control of the society, of the patriarchal society.
Do you think Alfred is forgiving anyone that's oppressing
No.
her in this situation? Maybe she wants to remember so that she doesn't forgive and forget. Because she's clearly being brainwashed. On the last quiz, there was a quote. Who is the last quiz in front of them? On the last quiz, there was a question on the quote response. Just like the old quiz. Maybe it was 2 quizzes. It was not this quiz, but the other last quiz. It said she was talking about this isn't something I signed up for. Like, I can't get away from this. This is something I signed up for. When she was talking about having sex with the commander. Well, if you hear the tone in that, she hasn't willingly signed up for it. She's just kind of gotten to a place where she's accepted her fate and accepted her role in the society, and she's in survival mode. So it's like this question should have been asked maybe then, because she was just telling herself what she needed to survive. And it doesn't mean that she wants to be raped repeatedly by the commander at all. It means that she is accepting kind of where she is right now, and she doesn't know how to rebel. Even though she has Mora as an example of rebellion, she doesn't know how to rebel. Even she does get an idea about how she might rebel later when she has the interaction with the commander, but she doesn't know at that point how she might rebel. Does anyone want to speak to that moment of rebellion, the thought of rebellion? So Brandon said that thinking is a form of survival for her. How is thinking maybe also a form of rebellion for our narrator, Alfred?
Because they're thinking about their own ideas. They're like influencing themselves, and they're allowing other influence outside of where they're supposed to be come into them, and that is what the society is trying to stop them from doing, especially when they, I believe that they canceled the sound for the feminist protest that they show them, but they allow them to see the images. So I think I've written about that. Yeah, page 119, where she's talking about how they want them to hear the screams of the pornography films, and they don't want them to hear about what the unwomen are saying. I put that the screams are meant to be heard so that the handmaids are scared to feel pleasure or interact with the man sexually, but with feminist movements, the ends do not want the handmaids getting any ideas. Allowing the handmaids to become filled with this information and start to remember the feeling of freedom to instead of freedom from would cause these movements to rise again and allow everything in the society that the society is against to come about. The society wants to keep women paranoid and fearful for their own pleasure and from their own pleasure and happiness, keep them from their sanity.
That's a really good point on page 119. When they're showing them violent pornography, they leave the sound. When they're showing them feminist protests, they remove the sound.
I kind of saw it as that the government, their society, what they're being ruled by, is kind of scared of women, so they try to put on this this idea of masculinity so that the women are scared to do anything. They try to just trap them because they know that they're capable of doing way more than they just show.
Yeah, I agree, because they also said that they showed like rape and gory stuff like that, and they just happened to like mute the sound from the feminist movement. It kind of shows how they're scared of like how society allowed them to like uprise and stuff like that. But so what they're trying to do is like kind of switch the way around when they show it now, like how, oh, this is how they treat them, like rape and stuff like that, and they were never given a voice. So they're kind of like faking or like rewriting history.
But so is our narrator. She talks about how she's just reconstructing it. That's your problem always. It's really disturbing the people in charge of determining are choosing to do it. Does anyone else have an annotation or a thought about page 119? the Red Center? The whole place, the Republic of Gilead?
Okay. So, just after Moira escaped from there, I put that Afra had the same thoughts while she was kissing the commander. Like she said that she wanted to, on page 139, I think the last paragraph, she says, I think about how I could take the back of the toilet apart, the toilet in my own bathroom on a bath night quickly and quietly, so Laura outside on the chair would not hear me. I could get the sharp lever out and hide it in my sleeve and smuggle it into the commander's study the next time, because after a request like that, there's always a next time, whether you say yes or no. I think about how I could approach the commander to kiss him here alone and take off his jacket as if to allow or invite something further. Some approach to true love, and put my arms around him and slip the lever out from the sleeve and drive the sharp end into him suddenly between his ribs. I feel like at that moment, Alfred was like experiencing her rebellious side. Like she knew that she wanted to do something like escape from the Republic as well, but she didn't have the strength to do so until she saw someone else do it.
So she has this rebellious thought, but what does she do in that moment to survive? She doesn't actually then carry out this action. She doesn't even have that thought until after the interaction. What was her like survival mechanism in that moment?
She just
She just kissed him. She didn't have any power in the situation and just kissed him.
At the ending of that whole chapter, I had a lot of questions. Hold on. Okay, I had 4. I put, is the commander falling for Offred? Does he want a loving relationship? Is he an eye in the society? Is he like testing Offred? Because I was really thinking about why would he ask the handmaid if they can kiss when kissing is like isn't kissing forbidden? Why would he ask her? Is he testing her, or is he actually falling for her? Or does he just want to get into bed with her outside of the actual ceremony?
But isn't kissing only forbidden when they're having the ceremony, or is it forbidden overall?
It's forbidden between handmaids. Or a relationship between a handmaid and a commander is forbidden. Kissing is forbidden during the ceremony.
So the loophole would be that outside of the ceremony they're allowed to?
I guess that is a loophole, but it is forbidden for handmaids and commanders to have relationships outside of the ceremony and like the duties that they're supposed to perform with one another.
Oh.
So your questions again were, is the commander falling for Offred? Is the commander an eye in this society, like testing her, seeing how far like she'll go to break the rules? Does he want a loving relationship with Offred?
I put the loving relationship because Offred had put to kiss him here alone and take off his jacket if I'll invite somebody further, some approach of true love.
It's a valid question. He also like has her come into his study. They play Scrabble. Offred even says on 139, it's like being on a date.
Oh yeah.
Page 139, almost at the bottom is the like third paragraph from the bottom, one standalone sentence. This is like being on a date. This is like sneaking into the dorm after hours.
Oh, he also put that when they kissed, he was like, not like that. He says, as if you meant it. He was so sad.
But then she said that is a reconstruction too, so maybe she made up the sadness in order to feel less guilty about kissing him.
She said that, Nana said that maybe she was lonely when she said that, and I kind of agree because she is like, before this society started, she was like, not a sex maniac, but she used to have sex a lot, and she,
I just think she was normal.
yeah, but she misses her Luke, was it Luke?
Luke, yep.
Yeah.
She pulls Luke out of a marriage.
It's not like she was.
Loneliness is possible, is a valid possibility. She lost her daughter, she lost her husband, she sits in a room all day with nothing to read except a pillow. So, making up things about eggs
Can we talk about how she mentioned that there may be 2 other pillows, Hope and what was the other? Hope and
It's back in chapter 19, right at the beginning. It's on the top of 110. 110.
it was Hope and Charity, and so
On
she,
110 it says, I wonder what has become of the other 2 cushions. There must have been 3 once, Hope and Charity. Where have they been stowed? Serena Joy has tidy habits. She wouldn't throw away anything not quite worn out. One for Rita, one for Cora. The bell goes. I'm up before it, ahead of time. I dress, not looking down. I sit in the chair and think about the word chair. It can also mean leader of a meeting. It can also mean a mode of execution. This is the first syllable in charity, the French word for flesh. None of these facts has any connection with the others. She's like postulating, she does this a lot, she thinks about the different meanings of words. I thought that was interesting, the breakdown of chair, its connections to different words and different meanings. If it is an emergency, go to the bathroom, otherwise you have 10 minutes. So, yes, the other cushions probably given to the other members of the household. What did you make of that?
I kind of thought that the other handmaids that were in that room before Alfred had those pillows, and maybe the 2 before her had an executor or something, so they would get rid of those because of the negative energy that's going to be involved with them.
Maybe they were executed because they had a illicit relationship with the commander. Maybe this is a pattern that he has. We do learn during the Janine birthday ceremony what happens if a handmaid gives birth. What do we learn? If a handmaid gives birth successfully, like Janine does, what happens?
She doesn't become an unwoman. She's kind of free in a way.
She gets reassigned. They see if she could do it again, and at some point, if she had enough children or she can't have children anymore, she's never going to be an unwoman. She's going to always have a place somewhere in the society. Maybe she'll get promoted to an aunt. So that question that we had lingering. But she has to give birth at least once in order to get that kind of amnesty. So that's the motivation to get pregnant by all means.
What's kind of angry? Oh, go ahead.
During what's it called, the baby?
The birth ceremony?
Yeah, that. I felt like they were all giving birth at the same time.
What made you say that?
Because, it was a couple of times in this chapter. I have to find it. On 125, on the 3rd chapter, the last sentence, it said, it's coming like a bugle, a call to arms, like a wall falling. We can feel it like a heavy stone moving down, pulled down inside us. We think we will burst. We grip each other's hands. We are no longer single. That kind of threw me off, because I was like, how is it possible to give birth all at once? Like, I don't know, I got confused.
How did someone else like picture this scene in their head? Who has a visual of this?
I pictured like all of them like kneeling around her, like all of them like hovering her and like holding on to each other, and like on some sort, I don't know, and they're like sweaty and I don't know, yeah, it's like they all have the same emotions and they're all doing everything that she wants, and they're all like helping her, and she says that like they rehearse this like over and over again.
When they mentioned giving birth to like both babies.
The chanting is kind of odd.
Yeah, the chanting was weird.
Pant. Birth.
So yeah, they're all like, go ahead. They're all like posted up here. You have like the aunts over here, and I imagine them kind of like in rows, like at church. This is how I saw it.
Yeah.
And she's up here, like kind of on an altar situation, and they're all kind of like imitating the birthing process while Janine is actually giving birth, because that's their whole. I don't know. That's their way of supporting her. That's part of the ceremony. That's their practice, and that's what they should strive to do. So
Is
that's, I saw it very much as an altar with everybody and all the handmaids in front of it, the aunts off to the sides, and the commander's wives like not having much to do with it, although the commander's wife
They weren't there.
off Warren, or Warren, the wife of Warren, and now you get a sense of how the names are constructed. Warren's wife was there because she's like behind, like you blue, she's like behind this Janine, so that it's like she's giving birth to the baby too, just like in the ceremony.
Is that in the actual movie, that whole scene?
Yeah, but they didn't do it the way that I saw it in my head. They did it, it doesn't, differently, yeah.
I'm not watching.
What were you saying about the names?
The names, yes. So off Warren is Janine's name. Warren is the name of the man that she's assigned to. So what do you notice about that? Of Warren. This is the handmaid of Warren. So what is our handmaid's
Fred.
commander's name? If it's
Fred.
Yep.
Fred.
Because of Fred. So we know now that the commander's name is Fred. So how do the names, the construction of the names of the handmaids, connect to question 1? They're named after their commanders. The commanders are men. Could you imagine, like, and every time they get reassigned, they get a new name based on the man that they're assigned to. It'd be really crazy if this was how, like, it worked in relationships. Not that the commanders and the handmaids have relationships, but could you imagine if, like, your significant other gave you the name of, put their name there, and that was your name? That kind of goes back to the objectification of women and the like, she's mine idea that we were critiquing earlier in the unit. Okay, where are we? We're on page 125. We were thinking about what this looked like with birthing ceremony. No men allowed at the birthing ceremony, not even doctors unless something goes wrong. That's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, that's why they asked at the end. How was it?
It still kind of angers me that they're not in the hospital. I don't know why they don't use the technology anymore. Why is it forbidden?
Oh, that's a good question. Why?
No, why the technology that we use is forbidden? Why aren't they allowed to go into the hospital? What if the umbilical cord chokes the baby?
What if the baby comes out the wrong way?
What, exactly. If they need a C-section, what? She's not gonna have any.
Oh yeah, no, she was watching a documentary about that.
Yeah. Do they still do it?
What?
The C-sections?
Absolutely.
But they don't give her Listerine or something.
Any kind of anesthetics,
There we go.
any kind of painkiller.
What's that word?
Honestly.
And if you look at 112,
Just slice her.
it talks a little bit about the technology and why they don't use it the same way, and it connects to the abortion debate we had last week.
Yet they kill the babies that have defects.
112, on the middle of the page, end of the second paragraph. Can I have someone read from "They could tell once"?
Of what page?
112. They could tell once.
I got you. They could tell once with machines, but that was now outlawed. What would be the point of knowing anyway? What couldn't have them? You couldn't have them taken out. Whatever it is must be carried to term. The rest.
Keep going.
The chances are 1 in 4. We learned that in the center. The air got too full once of chemicals raised radiation and the water swarmed with toxic molecules. All of that takes years to clean up. And meanwhile, they creep into your body, camp out in your fatty cells.
So 1 in 4 babies are being born with birth defects because the earth was so polluted at the time before, and it's still polluted. But and if they use like any kind of machines to do ultrasounds and they see that there's a problem and the baby's going to be born with health problems, or if the baby is going to be born in a way that would harm the mother, they can't have abortions because abortions are just not okay. And we talked about this a little with that political question. Do we believe that abortions for health reasons are okay? And some of us said yes, some of us said no, some of us were kind of in the middle on that. In this society, like, there's definitely no question about that, but the author wants us to have that conversation. That's why she's kind of including this in this fictional tale. This is like commentary on a political issue that is very much alive, was very much alive in the 80s when this was written. Chastity.
What do they do with the babies after they're born?
Didn't they throw
Which
them
ones?
some-
The ones who are born with like defects, or the ones who are normal babies?
Not the babies.
They give them to the commander's wife and the commander that they were assigned to. So like, oh, Janine's baby is going to the family that she was with, and then she's going to be reassigned.
The child stay with the mother for like a couple months.
For the
Yep.
breastfeeding.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for the breastfeeding, that's a couple of months, probably 3, and then she moves on. Yeah.
You can breastfeed like breastfeed somebody else.
Yes.
Uh,
As long as you have recently given birth.
As long as you recently give birth.
As long as you have recently given birth, and you can continue breastfeeding for as long as as long as you're producing it. If you stop giving it to something or whatever, then it stops being produced. But
Speaking of the babies going to the commander's wives, I spoke about this quote on page 125. All that remains is a shadow, not in the mind, even in the flesh. Pain marks you, but too deep to see, out of sight, out of mind. And I referenced how there was this envy with the baby and the baby being born, and I put that the separation between the mother and the child can cause some type of pain in the future, and also pain for the child. I can conclude that Offred sees pain, this pain of motherhood and pregnancy, as a burden, especially in this society, since the birth mother does not stay with their child. I believe there is an instant connection between mother and child when the baby is born. Breaking that loving connection can potentially cause the mother and even the child to feel lost and possibly go through a lot of pain throughout their life.
we're gonna hold right there. I'm going to extend this for a little bit of tomorrow because we're coming off of break with some cobwebs, and I want to touch on many more points of the chapters. Please do complete the reflection because we'll use that to add on. I'll take the things that you did not say and we'll talk about those. So complete the reflection. We'll just